Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to the Small Business Support Group. It is the 16th of July. It's Thursday. One more day to go to the weekend. I'm tired, and I will talk about that as soon as I've done the headlines. I'm a bit angry as well, but yeah, that's the way it is. So the headline said, Shamama Begum can return for the UK citizen fight. The 20-year-old who joined the Islamic State group in Syria in 2015 had her citizenship revoked in 2019, but now the government said she can now come back into the UK and fight it. Major US Twitter accounts hacked in Bitcoin scam. Twitter says a hacking attack on employees was to blame for one of its biggest ever security lapses. The UK payroll shrinks by 649,000 jobs in lockdown. Official figures reveal a drop in the number in employment, with young people hit the hardest. And Black Lives Matter protester statue removed. An artist redesigned the sculpture of Jen Reid to replace the toppled Edward Colston statue in Bristol, has now been removed by the Bristol Council. So who do we have in today? Well, it's just me and
him.
Good morning, Grant. Afternoon.
Hey, everybody.
You all right?
Yeah.
Fine. Yeah. Yes, not bad at all. So, my story. Yesterday afternoon, it's about yesterday evening, actually. It's about 6 o'clock-ish. Facebook just went off on .com to me. Couldn't log in. Couldn't access it. Just white screen. Nothing was going on. I could get on my phone, on the app, was perfectly no problem at all. But anytime you actually typed in facebook.com, on a desktop or even on Safari on iPhone, I just had a white screen. So I just thought, well, there may be just some down issues. So I just left that and then went back to it about midnight to see if I could get access. Still no access, still a white screen. So went to bed, woke up with those thoughts going around in my head. What's going on? At about 4:45, 4:45, and started work on it again then, and still no access. And it was weird because I thought it may have been a DNS problem on the Wi-Fi or on the internet coming into the house. So then I used the phone, turned the Wi-Fi off, just used 3G. Again, the app was working fine. But then when you go to Safari and Facebook.com, nothing, just wasn't loading. Tried everybody's accounts, tried everybody's devices. I was walking around the house, not in the dead of night, obviously it was early morning, but creeping around, grabbing people's devices and trying to log on Safari, just wasn't having it. Just weird. And then I had a bit of an idea. I use a VPN for a few things when I'm dealing with the States. And so I thought, I'll put the VPN on, which is, if people don't know those, it's an IP secure system. So it looks like you're going from a different part of the world and different IP address, just in case my IP was blocked by Facebook. No. I went through Iceland, went through America, still wouldn't let me in. But then slowly from I'd say about 7 a.m., some of my other family's accounts started to come back on. But not all the features were working, and it's just really weird. And then at 8:45, bing, everything on. I have no idea. I've Googled it just because, people put on problems on any service really. There was no downtime officially registered on Facebook, so I have no idea. I have had issues in the past with Facebook, where they blocked me with security wise, and I couldn't get back on, and that was like for a month. But today, just had no answer. It wasn't giving me any issues or any problems. Just wouldn't load. It was literally wouldn't load the page. So I don't know. I mean, have you heard of that, Grant?
Never heard of anything like that. And I'm guessing. Did you? So are you assuming that everybody was experiencing the same thing? It's just that because you're obviously in social media, you noticed it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, possibly, but there must be other people using Facebook on a desktop. Because it's only when you went into the Facebook.com, when you put that URL in, that's where the issue happened. But it was on I had all my Macs lined up, and none of them were accessing any account. And you just type in www.facebook.com, white screen, and that was it. Didn't go to a login page or nothing. Really, really strange. So I entered the cash.
You're really panicking because it's your business. It's what you do.
Yeah, it is. It's a little bit worrying. And also, because I was trying to set up the stream for here today, which obviously grabs the pages, wasn't grabbing the pages. StreamYard wasn't grabbing the pages. So I really don't know. And there's no answers anywhere or anything. So if anybody...
I think this is a bigger picture, this is, and a conversation that is worth having, because I don't know whether you follow what's been going on with London Real, with Brian Rose on London Real.
Yeah.
So he
I know about him bands, yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a huge following that is on YouTube, and that he's got millions of views on YouTube and a massive subscribe list, and it's his business. And as I've said on this show before, I really love his content because a lot of it's kind of motivational, entrepreneurial, a lot of sort of people that take things to the extreme, so super high achievers. And the content is just, I absolutely love it when he sits down and does an interview with somebody, and his whole sort of thing is that he won't censor anybody, so he won't necessarily agree with what they're saying, but he'll give them their right to free speech, because that's what we're all about. So what he's doing at the moment is, because he got banned on YouTube because he interviewed David Icke, who had strong opinions to do with 5G and whatnot, he basically got shut down and had a lot of his stuff banned. And then they kind of rapped him on the knuckles and said, like, you can't do that again. And that's when he started sort of questioning the system, because without really noticing what's happened to us over the last sort of decade is that we've got a few very powerful institutions that effectively decide what we see and what we can't see. And they're not controlled by the government. They're corporations, they're businesses that have got their own ideas about how they conduct themselves. And if they decide, so if YouTube or Facebook or anybody else decide that for whatever reason your content isn't appropriate, or they just decide they don't like what you're doing, they can effectively shut you down. And so the argument here is that, well, when people run a business, so, and in fact, here's another example. There's been plenty of instances where I've come across people that have got an Instagram account that has got hundreds of thousands, if not millions of followers, where the account's just gone. It's just disappeared. It's been hacked. And that account, Instagram, was their sole source of revenue. So effectively their business has just been wiped out overnight because somebody hacked it or whatever. And these big institutions, obviously Instagram's owned by Facebook, YouTube's owned by Google, effectively control the businesses underneath it. Apple's another one. If you've got an app on the App Store that is your sole source of revenue, it's at their discretion as to whether or not they let you purvey that content. And there's no real policing of it other than what they decide. In the YouTube instance, they were reacting to the sort of controversy over the 5G thing. It's just as well Ben's not on today. And
wait, I'll just interject there, because that did cross my mind at 5 o'clock this morning, thinking, we talked about that yesterday.
So what Brian Rose has done is he's now actually started a court case. So he did like a fundraising exercise where he raised loads of money. He set up a separate channel platform, which I forget what he calls it, Digital Freedom Platform. That's it.
Yeah.
Where he could do all of his interviews and purvey all of his stuff without being censored. So it's not exactly, none of this stuff inspires, violence or hatred or anything like that. A lot of it is like, and that's what's so shocking about it. The stuff that he does, it's just people's opinion. And whether that, and to censor it is shocking, really, because some of these people are a little bit bonkers, some of these people, but they've still got the right to, it's like there's loads worse stuff out there, much worse stuff.
There is.
It's just, it really is absolutely shocking to think that these corporations can just shut you down. So in your instance, with Facebook, your business model is effectively reliant on private businesses that at a whim could literally shut your business down, and they wouldn't have to justify it. They wouldn't care. They basically wouldn't give a damn. I mean, I've had it happen loads of times in the app world, because obviously I do app development, have been since 2010. And my business model, especially when I used to do apps all the time, was completely reliant on Apple and Google. And now Google used to be so loose, in terms of their restrictions. They were never a problem. But as you found out recently, Matt, when you tried to publish an app that we did for you through the platform, Apple they're just unbelievable in their the way they go about things. And it really is hit and miss. When you actually submit an app to Apple, whether that gets passed off or not, or whether that goes through all sorts of having to jump through hoops, just really depends on who desk it lands on. And the terms and conditions are so broad and loose, they can literally make up anything. And what Apple did a couple of years ago now is wholesale. They changed their terms and conditions, which meant that, and we've got hundreds of apps on the App Store, a massive chunk of them literally just got knocked off the App Store, just because they decided to interpret the terms and conditions in a slightly different way. And they didn't even change them. And we had to go through a huge amount of hassle and to resubmit and get them all back up again. And then Google did it to us about 4 months ago. Same thing, for this exactly the same way Apple did. And these big corporations have got us by the, what?
Short and curlies.
They really have.
Is a term.
So what Brian Rose has done, going back to London Real, is he's now suing or he's getting a lawsuit together. I think it's against YouTube, but it might be the generic idea of it, that institutions like Facebook, YouTube, Google should be treated as public institutions, like public utilities. Because when you buy electricity or gas from a utility company, they're governed by a different set of rules, because you have to have it. You can't not have electricity, in your house, and therefore they're treated separately. Because obviously, if somebody turned around and said, "No, we're not giving you gas, or we're not going to give you electricity because of this clause or that clause," they can't have that happen. So what he's saying, his argument is that these big corporations are now so powerful, and the use of Facebook from a business point of view, and the use of Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. So basically, you've got Microsoft, Apple, Google, Facebook are the four big ones, should be treated as public utilities, and therefore they can't just cut you off. They can't just do that. They are governed by.
Unless you've done something wrong, obviously. If you've done something wrong, they should be able to cut you off. That's right. I mean, when you're staying within the boundaries of, decency, and
that's when it becomes a grey area, doesn't it? I mean, the right to free speech is, absolutely vital to democracy, isn't it?
Ofcom is where I would, tip your hat to, because obviously, they're in charge of everything broadcasting as such. And is this broadcasting? I know we go out on we're out on five live channels today, and we're out across all the podcasts. So are we broadcasting? So I think we probably are. So we are realistically covered by the Ofcom rules. But if we all started swearing, nothing would happen. We wouldn't be cut off. And it doesn't work like that when you're on these channels, because they have the freedom of speech to a certain degree, don't they? But if that's where
the 5G thing is really fascinating, though, isn't it? Because the Ofcom rules are the reason that YouTube decided to get rid of the David Icke interview, and it's Ofcom that actually licensed the 5G technology.
Yeah, that's correct.
Surely that's a conflict in interest, because the stuff that we talked about this yesterday. People can have their opinions, can't they? But
of course,
I think the vast majority of the population would take anything that is, Ben aside, anything that is super harmful to, in relation to 5G with a pinch of salt. I mean, I did a bit of research on that whole thing when it kicked off, and from what I can see and what the scientists say, it's all a load of nonsense. So, you don't have to dig very deep to find that one out.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just looking for an article now, which is popped up overnight about Wayfair. Have you heard about Wayfair? These furniture supply people. They're big online. It's an American company, and they're a big online furniture retailer. And this story is phenomenal. This is ridiculous. So you'll probably enjoy this because how ridiculous this is. So Wayfair, as I say, they're an online furniture supplier. They do all kinds of different things. We bought some chairs from them and that type of thing, but they do settees and beds and everything. And they've been connected. Someone on Reddit had realised that they for some reason they overpriced certain products. Now I don't know what this is to do with business models or how they push things to one side. I don't know.
It's probably so they can show a big discount. So a lot of retailers, they'll put something up for sale at a high price. Oh,
and it's reduced. These are really high price. We're talking for a chest of drawers. It was like £10,000 or $10,000, and it was just ridiculous price. So that may be the reason. And they, like IKEA, they do name a lot of their products by name, because if you know that a lot of the IKEA products, when they're designed, they're actually the name of the designer. A lot of them are. Yeah. So they were putting names of girls to these products that had high price to them. Big cushions, great big cushions, $5,000, $6,000. Chest of drawers, $10,000, and they were just normal. They're nothing special. And then they put names with them, and then some bright spark who was obviously on some type of medication or whatever, smoking something at 2:00 in the morning. Then I wonder if they're people trafficking, because this is real. This is the subject's not real, but what happened is real. So he's put on Reddit that you can buy people and they're stored inside these units and massive cushions, and that's why their prices are $10,000. And
should I be laughing at this or not? I don't know. It sounds quite funny to me.
It is funny because it's so ridiculous. Wayfair have had to make a statement overnight to say, no, we're not people trafficking. They thought they were putting people inside this, and this was on Reddit. Then it went across all the other social media platforms. If you Google it or go onto your social media and look for Wayfair story, it's there, and it just shows it's open for anybody to just have any thought and start typing, and it just is out there, and which is a very powerful thing. And should that type of thing be regulated? I mean, we can't regulate it because there's no way you can regulate that much content that's going out across social media in an hour. There's millions of articles. But a big company, it's a worldwide company, has now had to make an official statement to say we're not people trafficking. We call these products this name, and then they've given the reason why they were a high price. But that, I mean, it stopped sales for 48 hours on Wayfair, because people stopped buying, thinking there were people trafficking. It's just insane. So yes, people should be monitoring it, but not, as you say, but not the actual social media companies. They shouldn't be allowed to switch me off. If they did switch me off, it may have just been a technical error, on my connection. You just don't know, do you? I mean, I'd like to think that they blocked me because we were talking about 5G yesterday and the other bits and pieces, but I don't think we're that interesting or that important, but it'd be funny to find that out. And it also leads into the other story that's obviously happened, which is that major US Twitter accounts have been hacked in a Bitcoin scam. I don't know if you picked this up, Grant.
I saw that. In fact, I was online last night, and I had a thing fire up saying Twitter's offline.
That's right. So it was offline to anybody who had a little tick, the green tick. If you don't know what a green tick is, anybody out there, it's if you are a star or an important person or a politician, a green tick just means it's actually your account is being verified. It's very difficult to get. You have to have in the region of 50,000 plus followers to get it. So basically, Twitter were hacked. They don't know how they were hacked. There's a few rumors that are going around that somebody was bribed in head office to allow to get into the back door, these hackers. And they put posts out across all the top named people and said, as if they were speaking in their voice, and said, oh, this Bitcoin situation is fantastic. If you send someone to this link, you'll get it doubled within an hour. And of course, before it got shut down, I think in the region of $200,000 was inputted into this system and went into the Bitcoin situation, which then couldn't be traced. So these people have lost their money if they put it in. Twitter closed everything down, but of course they had to close everything down. So anybody with a green tick was closed down completely, where all these the hackers were. But what they're trying to find out now, they'll never trace the hackers because the Bitcoin situation is that it's not traceable. That's the point of it. So they're just trying to find the person who works for Twitter to find out who opened the back door. Again,
isn't that interesting that one of the sort of key features that people bang on about the blockchain and Bitcoin is the security.
Yeah.
And what we've got there is an example of the security so good you can't even track a scammer.
No.
So it works both ways, doesn't it?
Well, it does. If you make it so hard and so tight, then now you're not going to be able to trace it. I mean, where are we with WhatsApp now? Is that still ultra secure both ends, or
it always says it's encrypted, and whenever you do messages, it says it is. I've never heard of anybody having a WhatsApp account
hacked.
I've never heard of that. But I mean, that's another example of utility. I mean, is it Microsoft that has WhatsApp?
I think so. Yes, they are. Yeah. No, it's Facebook. It's Facebook.
Is it Facebook? Yeah, it's Facebook. Yeah. So it's another one of those things there where it's almost like the monopoly, isn't it, on text messaging? Certainly in most of the world, there's some places that can't use it. I know you can't use it in Dubai, for example, but there's quite a few places that block it. But it's interesting how that's another example where you've got something that we use every day that's still owned by one of the big boys. They've got a monopoly on it all. These, there's four main businesses that control our information.
Well, they've got the money to buy it up, haven't they? So these people are creating this tech, and then the big boys come along and go, well, yep, that's great. We want that. And you're not going to say no, are you? If you're the developer of WhatsApp,
I would.
You would.
Yes.
If Facebook came along and said, we're going to give you $2 billion for Blam.
Don't want it. Peanuts, mate.
That's your dream, isn't it? Be bought out by a big boy.
Peanuts.
$2 billion?
Yeah, peanuts, mate.
That's brilliant. You would. You told me years ago that's what I want to do. I'll be bought out by a big boy. Do they?
I do. Yeah.
Money talks.
Stiff.
Well, no, you just come up with something else. That's what these lot do.
I tell you, mate, I absolutely love what I do.
No! Look, this is a hypothetical question, Chris. It's not. I don't think it's going to happen.
I get asked it a lot. What would you do if somebody came and gave you a big chunk of money? And the honest truth is, you don't really know till it happens, do you? I mean, I get letters about once a month offering to buy the business, and they just go straight in the bin.
Okay, I understand that. But if it was, I'm talking about a significant. If it was in the billions, what they paid for WhatsApp,
it would be a real dilemma because what I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure your wife wouldn't be very happy if you said no.
It's do you know what? It's a conversation. I think. What would you do, Matt? Let's say Social Command. You build it up. 5 years time. The business is worth. Well, here's the one that I think is really interesting. Let's say in 3 years' time, somebody knocks on your door and offers to give you £1 million sterling cash for your business.
Yeah.
Would you take it?
What is it in a briefcase?
You would get taxed 10% on that because in the UK you get entrepreneur tax relief. So if they offered you £1 million cash, you'd get 900 grand.
900,000.
Yeah.
You see, I don't think. And it's right, but I don't think £1 million is what £1 million used to be.
It's
obviously.
not. But that's why that's why £1 million is a good amount. So people are abroad, you know, we're talking about, what's it, about $1.3 million US.
Yeah.
You know, it's about 1.8 million Canadian. So, you know, same in Australia, that kind of money. Is that enough? And that's why it's an interesting number, I always think, because everybody always talks about $1 million like it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if somebody offered you that in 3 years' time, would you take it?
I'd have to say no.
Mm,
Not because of I'd have to negotiate up. You'd have to take it up because it's not enough. It's not enough to pay off what, you know, your house and all that, you know. And it's
that's how you've got a lifestyle you have, mate.
Say again.
Jet, is it?
No, I mean, you know, if that, yes, it's a really good question, that £1 million market, because if you sit down and you think, well, okay, what can I do with it? It'd be gone like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people who own bigger houses, normal houses, you know, they can be £800,000-900,000. Well, that's gone. There's your £1 million gone if you're buying a new house. So what? Yeah. So you would have to think about it very carefully, but it depends what circumstances you are. It's the circumstances where you are at that point, I think. Because if
anybody in business, you know, you do have to have the exit plan. You do have to have your strategy, your goal. What are you aiming for? And I think one thing that I kind of concluded a long time ago is that the exit plan's great. And obviously you can take some time out to think about what you're going to do next. But if all you're going to be doing is going back into another business and trying to do it all over again, you've got to think long and hard about whether the exit plan, as you see it, as in selling the business, is really what you want to do. And that's I always think that's a fascinating, you know.
Well, it's a good thing to talk about. Say again.
It's a nice dilemma to have if it's presented.
It is. It is. But you know, it's something that I've thought about, and you know, I because of all the things I've done, being an entrepreneur and starting up different businesses all the way through my life, my end of, you know, work life is going to continue. That, as in my head, I'm just going to carry on working until I drop down dead, because I enjoy what I do. Now, I'm not saying this business is going to be, you know, 5 years time. It may have changed dramatically, the business I'm in. So it may be something I have to go and look at something else. So it is a difficult plan forward, especially in the tech industry, because things move so fast, as we know. So it's a difficult, but no, £1 million, not enough. I'd go for 2 million. That's what I'm going to go for. 2 million. I'd seriously think about it then. Today, if anybody, telephone number is just drop a message on Facebook. You'll be fine if it's working. We've just got about a minute left because we haven't upgraded our Twitch time, but and we haven't talked tech because it's just me and you, and we haven't talked tech because it was Twitch that we're connected to. It's foul like that, people. I do apologise, because I know sometimes people go, when it's you and Grant, you just talk about gadgets and tech all day. Well, that's the way we're in. That's where we are. I know, definitely. So that is about it for today then. Thank you very much for joining us, Grant. Thank you very much for spending your half an hour. We will see you tomorrow at midday. See you then. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys.